I originally had planned to make a video on The Telltale Heart, a classic example of Gothic fiction which holds a special place in my memory. I remember my dad reading it when I was a kid, and being assigned the story again in high school. The classic horror story had captivated me then, and it is still a great read today. I opened my copy of Poe's complete works to reread the story and happened to stumble across a poem entitled Eldorado in the table of contents. I immediately recognized it as the fictional city of gold and was intrigued. I am ashamed to admit that outside of The Raven I had not paid too much attention to his poetry. I think it was in part this shame that led me to reading it. I was left feeling the same sense of creeping dread that Edgar Allan Poe's stories so often leave the reader with. The delivery method of a poem was a welcome change from the stories I had read. It was swift in delivery, but full of vivid images. The cryptic metaphors left a lot to be deciphered. I sat pondering the stanzas for some time afterwards. This is what the master of darkness and horror had to say on a city shining bright as the sun with wealth. Gaily bedight, a gallant knight, in sunshine and in shadow, had journeyed long, singing a song, in search of Eldorado. But he grew old, this knight so bold, and o'er his heart a shadow fell as he found no spot on the ground that looked like Eldorado. And as his strength failed him at length, he met a pilgrim shadow. Shadow, said he, where can it be, this land of Eldorado? Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow. Ride, boldly ride, the shade replied, if you seek for Eldorado. 4 short stanzas with 6 lines each. So few words which manage to speak so much. This poem was one of Poe's later works, and is in a sense fitting to end his career. I often marvel at the passage of time, and I struggle to fathom how things can lose their shine and people can grow old. I wonder if in part Poe had the same fears. The hero of this story spends his life lusting for a treasure which is always just out of his reach. He fails to see that his time on earth slips away as he peddles his time away filled with an elusive hope of riches. One of the cleverest things at work here is the multi-layered use of a shadow. This one word takes on many meanings throughout the poem. It changes from a literal shadow to a darkness and sadness, and finally to a region beyond our world. It leaves the reader in a bit of a daze, wondering what are we really here for, if not for wealth. My personal favorite line is in the second to last stanza. He met a pilgrim shadow. Describing death, the harbinger of the end, as a pilgrim is an incredible choice. The first definition given by Merriam-Webster for the word pilgrim is one who journeys to a foreign land. This fits the given line. Death is a creature from a world separate from ours. He journeys to the world of the living only to take others with him. The second definition fits too, and creates quite a different image. It is one who travels to a shrine or holy place as a devotee. If perhaps we view death as some completion to a religious individual, then the knight himself is the pilgrim, coming to death in his final moments, to take his final resting place. This almost turns the line on its head, but I feel both definitions together create a wonderful blend of emotions and images. It is these sorts of layered meanings which would never have been possible in prose. Even in short stories, there are far too many words to be able to examine each and every one. In a poem as short as this, every word counts, and a well-versed poet is able to expand on every element therein. The line which follows is perhaps the lesson of the poem. Even when faced with the end, the man only manages to ask where Eldorado is. He fails to grasp that this question brings about his undoing. By failing to acknowledge that his dreams will never be manifested, he rides off into the afterlife, endlessly lost. Apparently this poem was written as a response to real-world events. Poe wrote it to encapsulate his feelings regarding the American gold rush. I would imagine seeing the gold rush play out would have looked a bit like knights of ancient times looking for gold or the fountain of youth. Seeing people spend everything they had in the hopes of getting rich quick, and of course coming up empty-handed, must have left a profound impact on the author. The fact that this story is tied to a real-life event makes me smile in a way. We've traveled everywhere in the world and know every inch of Earth. We can confidently say that the fabled city of gold is nowhere to be found. Despite this, people will keep searching from now until the end of time, even if it costs them everything.